Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of May 4th, 2025. First, let's take a look back at the astrology in action. On Saturday, April 26th, was the third of three Mars-Pluto oppositions. The first one was just before the election last year when Mars was at the 29th degree of Cancer, opposite Pluto in Capricorn. At the beginning of the year, we had Mars retrograde in Leo, opposite Pluto in Aquarius. So they both had changed signs. And now we have the last of three. And we have three because of the Mars retrograde cycle where we went over old ground and then came back again. The biggest event from a collective level was that the Pope's funeral was on this day. The word of the day for the Celestial Insights podcast was finale, and that was before we knew the Pope was dying. So there was this energy of finality and of completion that was in the cosmos as the Pope was laid to rest. And Mars in Leo can be a leader. Leo has associations with leaders who fights for the people. Leo also has associations with royalty. And you can think about how the Pope looks with all of the finery on them. So they are, in a sense, a religious, really special, the one type person who takes on an air of royalty. One of the biggest things we saw at this event was that Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump, we saw them face off, sitting together, huddled together, having an animated conversation between the two of them. And it was their first meeting in person after Zelensky was kicked out of the White House at that horrendous meeting right the day before Venus went retrograde in Aries. And so this meeting happened 2 days after the last Venus-Saturn conjunction. So it was allies, Venus, or partners, having this hardship, these barriers that Saturn rules: crisis, boundaries, delays. There's still delays getting to the Venus peace in Ukraine. And they both have Mars and Leo natally, but they're very different kinds of leaders. I would consider Zelensky brave-hearted. When the war broke out, he said, "I don't need a ride to Biden, I need ammo." And he is beloved by many. People were applauding at the funeral when he walked in. World leaders celebrated him for all of his bravery. A very Mars and Leo type person is very brave. And then on the other hand, we have Donald Trump, who is beloved by certain people, but most of the world considers him to be arrogant, narcissistic, only out for himself. Just 2 days before, when Venus met Saturn, he refused aid to people of Arkansas and I believe Kentucky or Kansas who'd been devastated by the storms recently. He declined to give aid for FEMA, so he doesn't even help the people who voted for him. And he has this reputation of only being out to enrich himself and fellow billionaires. So these two had this face off. It was cricket silent as Donald Trump walked in. No one applauded, and thankfully no one booed. It's not that kind of event. I said he was going to embarrass us, and thankfully it was just about him wearing this blue suit, sticking out like a sore thumb. It's such a shadow Leo thing to do something to get attention to yourself. Everyone else was in black, and there he is in this blue suit. Similar energy to when he pushed the person aside to get to the front of the cameras. You can listen to last week for the backstory on that. But yeah, we saw that. Another way we saw this Mars-Pluto opposition, and Mars attacks, and Pluto is like power struggles. And Aquarius, groups of people are witnessing this and impacted by this. For Trump and Zelensky, whether or not there'll be any funding or support for Ukraine from the United States. This criminal Italian cardinal, Angelo Beccui, is trying to force his way into the conclave. He was convicted of financial crimes, which is so perfect for Taurus season, and he wants to be able to be part of the conclave and vote on the next pope. So that made some headlines ahead of the funeral that took on that nature of this Mars and Leo individual standing up and saying, I want to be part of this big group that's making this big decision. And I don't know if he'll be allowed or not, but that took on the nature of that. So we had this incredible event. We knew that Venus, which rules love, peace, beloved people, admired people, like the Pope, was separating from Saturn. He died. The Venus-Saturn conjunction was on the 24th, 2 days before. And it was also conjunct the North Node in Pisces. So over 250,000 people, the North Node has associations with groups, came to pay their respects, show their love, Venus, for a dead person, Saturn, who's a religious leader, Pisces. Pisces has to do with belief. So we really saw this energy on a large level at the Pope's funeral, and it was really a beautiful event from what I saw of it. But Mars opposite Pluto, as I've been explaining, is some of the most violent, explosive energy possible. Mars attacks. It's a malefic. Pluto is a higher octave of Mars that takes on the nature of mass influence. Catastrophes strike with Pluto. And I had said, I think it was last week, that I saw like an explosion and people cleaning up after it. And on the day of Mars opposite Pluto, there was an explosion at a port in Iran where over 1,200 people were injured. Dozens were killed, is my understanding. I haven't seen whether it's just an accident where maybe chemicals were mixed up, or it was some kind of sabotage, but that is so in line with the energy. And even 2 days later, or right after the new moon, there was another explosion in Iran at a gunpowder facility. So I don't know if this is some kind of sabotage. That's the news said they're evaluating whether it's sabotage or it's just a coincidence, but it's so in line with the energy. On the day as well, there was someone who took a car. Mercury's in Aries. Mercury rules transportation. And this person was Mars and Leo and decided he was going to drive through a Filipino street festival. And horrible. Multiple people were killed and many were injured. So that was a very sad thing in Canada. Also, there was right after the new moon. So this was the day after the new moon in Taurus. And something about the new moon in Taurus is that the Mars-Pluto opposition was still very active, but separating. And on Monday, the 28th, there was a huge blackout in Spain and Portugal and parts of France. Mars opposite Pluto. Mars rules power. Pluto is a catastrophe. Pluto rules death. So power out. And I've been talking about power outages for a while, or there's a potential for some kind of cyber event. I was thinking it might happen here, but it happened in Europe. And they're still discovering what happened, but it was just mass pandemonium in terms of the fact that so many people their whole day there was upheaval throughout the day because it impacted just every part of life. No power to millions in these countries. And there's concerns, was this some kind of sabotage? Or they think it might be a rare atmospheric event. Mars in Leo could be really hot weather. Leo is a fire sign. Mars rules fire, so it's heat. Mars is the red planet. Heat opposite Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius rules technology. With Pluto, technology meltdown is so in line with this transit. So this is a really big deal. I've been talking about the peekaboo virus so I don't know if we'll see what is uncovered going forward, but it's very concerning. And very concerning, their thoughts it could be a foreign government doing something to interfere.
Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Herlick, creates this calendar every year, and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2025. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar.
The theme of this week is ripping off the Band-Aid, and there's 3 big things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that we have a first quarter moon at 14 degrees of Leo. The tagline is I create. This energy is dramatic, ambitious, extravagant, desiring attention. Leo energy can put on a big show that's very entertaining and grabs our attention. There's a desire to impress and sometimes upstage others. It can be optimistic, magnetic, generous, romantic energy. On the shadow side, vanity, childishness, overbearing, bravado, cruel and boastful, exhibitionist, narcissistic and proud are some of the shadows as well. In mundane astrology and the astrology of worldly events, the sign of Leo rules royalty, heads of states and leaders, entertainers, children and youth, especially like the golden child energy is Leo. It has to do with national pride and patriotism. Sports and recreation and leisure are Leo topics, as well as gambling. Luxury. Leo energy is wanting the best. So notice if there's something about these big luxury retailers like Louis Vuitton and whatnot that are losing all kinds of wealth. We're in Taurus season, so the sun is spotlighting topics around finances and value, and China has been selling directly to people some of the products they make for these luxury retailers, and it's been a bit of scandal. So if we look at the first quarter moon chart, and remember, first quarter moons are times of action. So last week we had a new moon where what intentions did you set about Taurus topics? Because we had a new moon in Taurus. At this point, you may be feeling like, okay, these are the things I wanted to do, and now do I need to make changes or adjustments? You may feel an internal pull to take action because the first quarter moon is a crisis of action where the sun, which rules our conscious mind, and the moon, which rules our subconscious mind, are at right angles. There's a square. Some things we know are happening this week is that Katy Perry and Beyonce are having world tours about their concerts. So there may be news in the collective about their concerts. The Sean Diddy Combs trial about sex trafficking and all the horrendous things this man has done. He is a music executive and rapper. That jury selection starts on Monday, and that's going to have this Mars-Pluto energy. This big star, Mars in Leo, has hurt masses of people, and it's Mars rules sex. So there's going to be a lot of talk about sex in this trial and the devastation and brutality that was done to groups of people. The conclave starts on the 7th. So this is when the Pope, the cardinals come together to select the new Pope. And it's not surprising we have so many big events happening, a big trial starting and the conclave starting, because the moon at 14 Leo and the sun at 14 Taurus are on world points. 15 degrees of the fixed signs are world points where events take on a higher significance, where they get more attention. So we look at 14 to 16 degrees of the fixed signs, but especially as it's approaching 15 of the fixed signs, we know that there's going to be things that get a lot of attention. And there's going to be a lot of animated talking this week. Mercury in Aries, a fire sign. Mercury communicates. Aries is fast, direct, quick. Is sextile, which is opportunistic. Jupiter in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. Air signs communicate and connect. Jupiter expands and it rules philosophy and the truth. So people will be talking animatedly about how they see things and how they see the truth. And Gemini is a double-bodied sign. So there's two sides to every story. And there's going to be a lot of information coming at us about all sorts of things. So a lot of talking. Also, there could be talk about violence or competition with Aries, Mercury being in Aries. There's also the energy of fire and wind with Mercury in Aries, sextile Jupiter in Gemini. The sun at 14 degrees of Taurus is the Six of Pentacles tarot card. This is a card of giving and receiving. You can think about charity or reciprocity. The Sabian symbol is a man with a silk hat, muffled against the cold, braves a storm. Notice if you see someone dressed to the nines, struggling with the weather, This makes me think about Marilyn Monroe standing on the gates of the subway and the wind blowing her skirt up in one of the movies that she was in. So you may see someone dressed very well, having some kind of struggle. This also brings to me the image of that there will be news about wealthy people and how they're being impacted by the financial crisis brought on by these tariffs. Most people will have an impact in some ways. The moon is at 14 Leo, which is the Six of Wands card. That's a card of victory. A street pageant moving along a street packed with people is the Sabian symbol. This brings the energy of a carnival to this lunation. I really get the image of a bunch of people walking down the street and someone who's very finely dressed has, I don't know, it could be like Carrie from Sex and the City in the in the thing that goes before every episode. She gets splashed by the water on the bus. That kind of imagery comes to mind. But this is just a great time. You may be feeling internally this pull to take action to achieve your goals. And hopefully you're feeling proud of yourself for something you've accomplished, or optimistic about the ability to accomplish something. This like heart-centered fire. Leo rules the heart. So stand up straight. Keep your crown on straight is what I would suggest. Moon phase families, also called lunar gestation cycles, is a fascinating timing technique that can track unfolding events over time. The concept is that every new moon opens a 27-month cycle where there will be a story that develops in 9 months intervals. These families can be used to track how your intentions evolve over time, plan long-term goals, or understand the unfolding of personal or global themes. There was a new moon on August 4th, 2024, where the sun and the moon were both in Leo at 12 degrees. Today we have the first quarter moon 9 months later, where the sun is in Taurus and the moon is in Leo. They're both at 14 degrees on May 4th, 2025. The full moon of this cycle, where the sun is in Aquarius, the moon in Leo, both at 13 degrees on February 1st, 2026. And the last quarter moon, where the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Leo, both at 9 degrees, will be on November 1st, 2026. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Pluto in Aquarius will go retrograde today until October 13th, and it will move backwards through the zodiac. And this is an optical illusion from our perspective, from 3 degrees back to 1 degrees. Pluto moves so slowly, it inches through the zodiac. And so what we will see is we will be going over old ground. And I like to describe retrogrades as we pull back the tape and see what's underneath. These are times when things are exposed and revealed. Pluto, by its nature, unearths things. It rules power dynamics, big conspiracies. We will learn about corruption. There's potential of big news about air problems or aviation issues, because Aquarius is an air sign and it rules aviation. I expect we will see a lot of news about, or there will be at least a story about how removing the funding overnight from USAID, this organization of the US government, which exercise soft power throughout the world. And one of the things they did was contribute to a lot of health studies and feed many people. So we may learn about how people are starving and dying because of the removal of these funds. This is part of why the episode is titled Ripping Off the Band-Aid. Also because of Sean Combs, he is someone who was responsible for putting together bands and is very involved in the music industry. So we're going to be seeing beneath the surface of some of the really deep ugliness of the music industry. The opening statements aren't until next week, but the people will be selected on the jury and they will be asked a lot about questions about, is their comfort level about seeing this brutality as well as the freak-offs or these sex parties he would have, and people are going to have to be able to stomach watching some of this videotape. You can ask yourself about what truth about myself am I ready to face, even if it feels uncomfortable, because Pluto is deeply healing. When we look at our shadows, these parts of ourselves we'd rather not admit to, our more basic instincts and desires, it can be incredibly healing. So this is a great time to consider that. And you may find yourself thinking about the past or past power struggles and what have you. There will likely be some big events. Pluto rules volcanoes, or you could see some kind of uprising is possible as well. Apparently, India and Pakistan are in conflict because of attack at a terrorist attack at a tourist destination in India on the day of Venus, Saturn, and Pisces. People vacationing and having fun and recreating Venus met death, Saturn, 2 days before the Mars-Pluto opposition. And then right after the new moon in Taurus, we saw tanks on the border of Pakistan, as well as people in India, Pakistani descent or from Pakistan, got their visas removed and had to go home. So there may be some story about what's going on over there. A new front, and I mentioned that with Mars opposite Pluto, we may see a new place where there is conflict, and it is between India and Pakistan, two countries that have had conflict before. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Mercury will enter the sign of Taurus from May 10th through 25th. It is flying through this sign. It's back up to its speed after the retrogrades. We've cleared the shadow. We're in a new sign. Hallelujah. There's forward motion. Now, Taurus is fixed earth. It rules our values, our resources. It's practical and grounded. So you may find your thoughts slowing down. If you're in a meeting when this happens, people may get quiet because we'll go through the 29th degree of Aries, and that can be, there can be like somebody snaps and just says something really fast and impulsive or challenging or full of conflict, and everybody just gets quiet and looks at them. That could be what we see. Taurus is called the Buddha, the silent one. Buddha was a Taurus. But people could be laughing and joking around, and then the conversation take on a serious nature. It's time to get down to business, to start planning. Maybe you're looking at budgets with Mercury in Taurus. So on the 9th, the day before, which is a Friday, just be extra careful about being impulsive, because as Mercury goes through the 29th degree of Aries before changing signs, there is this desire to express all of that energy of Aries, which can be fiery and fast. It can be funny, and this could be a time where you like just land a great joke, but just be aware that if you are acting too hasty, this could be like you get in an accident and then you've got to get your car fixed. And now you're thinking about all the money you've got to spend on your car, because as soon as Mercury goes into the sign of Taurus, it's going to square Pluto's at 3 degrees and moving backwards. You could be seeing something about huge traffic accidents around this time, but hopefully not. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching, where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is release. We start the week with the moon in Leo and have the first quarter moon at 14 degrees of Leo at 6:51 a.m. Pacific time. It's a crisis of action. Go back and check what intentions you set, what changes do you need to make, and get on it. Hopefully, you're having a great time. This could be a time where you see some luxury item and get this internal desire to really buy it, but just check your budget. This is not the best time to be spending money frivolously when we have big concerns about the economies around the world. No matter where you are, you're being impacted by this trade war. Pluto will station to go retrograde at 3 Aquarius at 8:27 a.m. Now, this is opposite Israel's moon at 4 Leo, so there may be some story over there. I get the image of lots of steam or pressure releasing suddenly. Now, this could be just like a big windbag who's a Leo or shows Leo energy just bloviating on and on. Now, it could also be like a volcano eruption or something to do with oil and gas. Pluto rules nuclear power, and just about every time it's activated almost, or at least a couple times a year, Vladimir Putin starts talking about nuclear weapons and threatening people. But the nuclear energy may come up in the collective for some reason in discussion. But this energy is most intense 5 days before and 5 days after the station. So just be aware if you feel like you're getting into this intense power struggle with someone, or you did, and you're like, I have no idea why I acted that way. The energy is in fixed signs, so people can be really stubborn. Leo, where the moon is, Taurus, where the sun is, and Aquarius, where Pluto is, are all fixed signs. On Monday, the word of the day is headliner. The Leo moon is trine Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. Now, this is especially noteworthy because Chiron is conjunct Eris, the goddess of chaos. And this is the day Sean Combs' trial starts. And the moon is square Uranus and Taurus. And Uranus is at 26 degrees of Taurus, conjunct the fixed star Algol, which has associations with women who won't be subservient, as well as the Medusa myth, a woman who was punished for being raped. And Cassie, who's one of Sean Combs' old girlfriends, is going to be one of the key witnesses at his trial. So she is representative of Chiron in Aries conjunct Eris and square Uranus conjunct Algol. This female figure of a woman who has been done wrong but refused to be subservient anymore, and she set off this whole problem for Sean Combs when she sued him for how he treated her in the past, and it opened this Pandora's box a couple years ago, which has now resulted in him being on trial, fighting for his life, and he's been in jail for quite a while. There will be a lot of discussion of things that are just absolutely obscene at this trial. And Mercury on Aries is on a world point of 22.5 degrees of Aries. 0 and 22.5 degrees are the world points of the cardinal signs, and it's 7.5 of the mutable signs. So we've got a lot of world point energy this week. And so people are going to be testifying about what happened to them when they were children. Aries is a useful sign. Mercury rules children. Mercury in Aries is sextile Jupiter in Gemini on this day, but also at 22.5 degrees. So we're going to be hearing a lot about young people as well, is my expectation. The moon will enter Virgo at 12:39 p.m. Pacific time. Virgo is an earth sign. It's precise. It rules the details. And people are going to be questioned when they're on the stand on the days coming about whether or not they have the ability to serve on this trial. But I love a Virgo moon for getting yourself together, decluttering, get down to business, separate the wheat from the chaff, pay attention to what ingredients are in the foods you're eating and consuming, and that sort of thing. On Tuesday, the word of the day is enchantment. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and harmony, is in the sign of Aries, where she doesn't really like to be, because Aries is about independence and Venus wants to connect. But you can connect with yourself on this day. Venus and Aries is sextile Pluto and Aquarius. They're both at 3 degrees of the respective signs. So there may be some talk about Cassie, you would see, about how this woman is being Aries brave and strong to confront the abuse and be a person who represents all these people who have been harmed. There may be talk about how people use money, a Venus topic, in order to threaten people or dominate people, Pluto and Aquarius. On this day, Mercury is conjunct Chiron at 24 Aries. And they're both conjunct Eris, the goddess of chaos. It'll be interesting to see how this shows up. This is a little bit of violent symbology or about yelling. Mercury in Aries feels like it's yelling something. Or somebody could just be talk about how they were healed after a crisis. On Wednesday, the word of the day is exaggeration. The Virgo moon squares Jupiter in Gemini. Virgo is precise and wants the facts. Jupiter makes everything bigger, and Gemini is very associated with the facts. Virgo is precise. It wants the detailed facts that mean something. Gemini just wants to give you all the facts. So this could be someone is telling you every single thing you need to know about something, including a bunch of extraneous details you don't need to know, or someone's telling a whopper, a fish story where they're just going on and exaggerating. The Virgo moon will meet the South Node on this day. So secrets will be revealed. The South Node is a bulldozer that uncovers things. And Mercury in Aries also is quincunx the South Node in Virgo. So Virgo rules health. There could be some kind of call to do some kind of research about diseases. I know I saw something recently about wanting a commission to look into the lab leak theory about COVID. So notice if something is announced on this day about that. On Thursday, the word of the day is reciprocity. The Libra moon begins at 12:06 a.m. Pacific time. Libra is cardinal initiating air. Air communicates and connects. Venus wants to partner and rules the sign of Libra. Libra is the sign of relationships. We'll have a gibbous moon at 3 degrees of Libra, and a gibbous moon is pregnant with possibilities. And the sun in Taurus, the moon in Libra. Libra also rules justice. Taurus rules finances. There could be some talk about corruption or a quid pro quo. So Libra, reciprocity. I do this for you, you do this for me. And with Taurus, there's money involved, likely, or land deals or something like that. I think there's going to be some kind of secret unearthed. And the gibbous moon starts at 6:35 p.m. Pacific time. The conclave started yesterday, so maybe there'll be some talk about what the people were wearing. Libra has associations with fashion. On Friday, the word of the day is hasty. Mercury will be at 29 degrees of Aries on this day. So Aries is cardinal initiating energy. There could be this desire to express this energy before Mercury changes signs. So just be mindful about not being too hasty or fast. Double check your work. Mercury rules our thought processes. It rules communication as well as transportation. So slow down. This is hot rod energy. This is people drag racing energy. So defensive driving is highly recommended on this day. On Saturday, the word of the day is purse strings. Mercury enters Taurus until the 25th of the month. And Taurus is a sign of finances. When I was writing this, there was this really strange story where the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, had her purse stolen while she was out at dinner with her family, and her purse was between her feet, and supposedly it was a illegal immigrant who stole her purse. But there's something so fishy about this story. Maybe something comes out about that on this week because it's just really strange. And the Scorpio moon begins at 12:58 p.m. Pacific time. So Scorpio is deep waters. It often coincides, a Scorpio moon, where something's revealed that's deceptive or corrupt or something done underneath the scenes. I don't know if it has anything to do with this story in particular or something else, but if you see anything about this, let me know. You could email or DM me. But news about corrupt spending of money or bribery or things like that is going to be very prevalent in the collective. That's more for next week after the Scorpio full moon, which will be tomorrow, but I'll talk about that then. But for a Scorpio new moon, it could be very sexy and a great time to do some shadow work and really understand the deeper reasons that you do some of the things you do, especially the things you'd rather deny about yourself and your personality. Watch out for power struggles, but this could be a nice energy for a romantic date potentially. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories about how the week is playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.